So by looking at this picture, you start to get an idea, how it's going to go together, and from the other videos that I made. But start from the beginning. This is going to be the discharge side of the boiler, and this is the return side into the boiler. And I've got it set up so the gauge and this hose bib here, go to one way. They go away from the piping that is going to be in the middle here, and over here it goes that way. It's to go away from the water piping and the gas piping that's going to be in the middle there. This is again an extra boiler gauge. I didn't have to put that on there. There's a couple interesting things about this gauge that I'll see if I can get to, but this is similar to the ones that you've already got on the system. So you can see that I have the flow meter over here on the return side, and this is set up so we can have the flow meter either on the return side or the discharge side, and that all has to do with how it's going to go into place. I didn't want these pictures in here, dang it. Stop, pause for a little bit. Okay, it has to do with the amount of room that we have. So here's the discharge connection on the boiler, and that pipe is going to come down here, and if the flow meter is on this side, it's going to come down almost to, it's going to come down very close to this vent valve. So I don't quite know where this is compared to how close it's going to be. So, but if we went over here, we would have the room necessary to vent the thing. Well, the end of it will come down here, and then the hose will start. So hose would start about right in here. So it depends on how it's going to go together once you start to install it. So whether you'll have the flow meter on the right side or flow meter on the left side, doesn't matter which side you have it on. There is an arrow indication on the side of the casting below here that shows the direction of flow. You got to make sure you get that right. The manual is in the box with it. I did test this flow meter out to see how accurate it was, and it was very accurate. I set it up to put out on a I set it out to get a flow just under 2 gallons a minute, and I filled a bucket that's a 3-gallon bucket, and it filled right at 2 gallons or a little bit more. So it is calibrated pretty well at the factory. So you can see here that there's one of these elbows, and this is just for convenience, depending on directions of hoses and how it's all going to fit together. Yeah, I wanted to get another one of these or a couple more for convenience to see how it could go together for you. But you might not even use this. So and you can see down here that here's a T that would go into the line. This is one of these T's that slips in and can slip back to give you some capability of putting it in on the fly. And then the other T for the return piping would be right here. That's already in the boiler system. So if we take a look at it here, here's the flow meter, on the discharge side. And then the next picture is the pieces that I shipped to you. So you can see here that I took the top part off. That's just got the union on it, and the top part off here. And the flow meter is disconnected here. I ship the flow meter separate, and the hoses are separate with their fittings. So if the flow meter goes on this side, this little fitting right here is just to prop up the flow meter so it doesn't roll over. But if the flow meter goes on this side, then this little bell housing, this bell reducer with a hose bib on it, goes on this side. If the flow meter goes over here, then this bell housing, or bell reducer with a hose bib would go over on this side. So it gives you the ability to flop them back and forth before you put it all together. All right, you can see here in this picture, these are just some extra fittings. I shouldn't say they're extra. I should say this one could be used. This one is going to go into the valve that you remove in the existing system. So you can see this is just a piece of pipe here, and then this is a soldered pipe to NPT, and then this is NPT to hose bib. So where this will go is here. This valve I talked about, we're going to take out, and we're going to move down here, and then that piece that I just showed you is going to go to on the bottom of that valve, so you have another hose bib right here. So this valve will go down over here, and then that piece of pipe that I just showed you back on the other picture, I'll show you again, is going to go in there, so you have a hose bib, because this is going to be the fill area where we're going to set up the pump and the glycol, and we're going to start filling from this area to fill the system. And then the T. Did I send extra T? Oh no, that's that. Yeah, the T that shown in the picture is going to go in here, and then this fitting here that was part of the hose bib is going to go into that T right here. But now I do see an issue. Hopefully you don't have to pick up some extra fittings, because if we go down here, take a close look, it appears that this fitting, this T here, is shark bite, but then it might be NPT here. It might be a pipe fitting that goes in here. But in any event, this hose bib fitting, it looks like this hose bib fitting is going to go onto the T that's going to go here and then face up to connect into the system. So, and then this hose bib fitting here, and there's T, it's going to come off the hot water heater, and this will flip up 180 degrees, go up, and then the hose will fit onto that and go up to the system. So the hose that you saw will go from here around this guy and then up into the fitting. So it's going to go around the pump, the hoses a little bit. And then the other one's going to come up here, and however it's going to connect into that one. It is going to be an issue with this expansion tank. You moved it, I saw, and I had it positioned here because it does bump into this. So I mean, putting it back where it was could work temporarily. If we can get the hoses, and that's why we have a variety of sizes of hoses, if we can get the hose to go around and go through and go up into the header assembly right here. So that's how it's going to go together to a degree. And back to that one fitting that I showed you. Again, this is going to go on the bottom of the ball valve. This is a fitting that is similar to this one right here. This is the one we can trade back and forth depending on how we're going to put the, oh, no, I think about it. That's not going to work. Oh, it's similar to this one right here. You can see this is a reducing 1 inch, because this flow meter is 1 inch here. And this is 1 inch to 3/4 to go to the hose bib. And you can see the length of this. Well, if we go to here, this one is the same thing, but it's a little longer. It's a female with a nipple and then going into that, where the other one is a male and a nipple. So this one is about 1 inch longer, the other one's about 1 inch shorter. If you know, there's a good chance that depending on hose lengths and things like that, you might use that one instead of one of the other one, or the other one that's there. And this is just a, you know, well, this is right here is the same as this right here, but it's into the reducer, 1 inch to 3/4 inch. So that's how that is. So what will happen when we completely build out the system and remove some of that 3/4 inch piping? Well, you can see we're going to come off here, and what we have here is a 1 inch. All this is 1 inch, and a 1 inch connection there. And if we go over here, it's a 1 inch connection here. So we'll just come off with a piece of 1 inch copper to the female connector and connect into it. So all this, once we put a complete system together with, we redo the piping, this will go away from here and will connect into there, and then, you know, this will go away from here and will connect into a 1 inch into the bottom of the flow meter. That's what made the flow meter kind of nice, that I found. It's a 1 inch NPT connection on each end, and that's what we're using is 1 inch pipe. So kind of nice. So one thing I don't like about this boiler gauge, and there are other options on eBay. Well, one thing I do like, it is a 50-pound gauge. So here's the meter, or the arm, and you'll easily be able to see what your pressure is. Some of them are 80 pounds, some of them are 100 pounds, some of them are 200 pound. You know, and at 200 pound, this needle is going to be just barely up there. It's hard to see what your exact pressure is. With a 50-pound one, you'll be up here between 10 and 20 during operation, and you'll easily be able to see what the pressure is. This temperature gauge I don't like so much because it goes up to 320 degrees, and we're only going to be operating around 100 to 120. So this dial is going to be right in here. It'll work, but it would be nice if this was like a 250 or 200 degree temperature. Then the dial would be over in here, and you'd be able to, you know, see it a little bit better on where it is. But that's the way that gauge is. One of the interesting things about this gauge, if you take this and you turn it on its side and look at the back side of this gauge, you're going to see two different fittings going into the piping. One is a 1/2 inch, or 1/2 inch male, reducing to a 1/4 inch female, and then this gauge goes in there. Well, that first fitting in there, that's 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch reducer, that's actually got a built-in check valve in it. So you have the ability to take this meter out and not lose any flow or lose any water, because the way when you screw this in, it pushes into a check valve mechanism built into that other fitting, and opens it up and causes these readings to take place. But if you back it out, the check valve will seat, and you can take this meter out of here and put a different one in. And it's pretty interesting. If you did take this out, you don't take out the reducing fitting, the 1/2 to 1/4. You take out the gauge bottom itself, the back side. There's a square nut on it, and that's what you would turn, the square nut, to get it out of the reducing fitting, and then it wouldn't leak. Cross your fingers and hope that it doesn't leak. So take a look at that one on the back side to see what that looks like. That's what I wanted to tell you about this fitting. So, what you really want to do is to go in front of the boiler and lay this out just the way it is. Here I've got these lightly screwed together. I've only got this on a turn here, and same with the flow meter. I've just got it on a turn or a turn and a half. And then take the hoses off there and put it up there and see how it fits, whether you want it to go, the flow meter, on this side or on this side. You could even put it in there. So the first thing you do is you take this fitting, doesn't matter which one goes on which one, take this fitting, put it up in the boiler, and then put it together with just the flow meter at the end and see how the flow meter fits in there. And all you'd have to do is turn the flow meter off, put it on this side, see how it fits in there, and then line up the hoses to see how it's all going to work. So that's kind of how you would put it together. Hose bib, here's a relief valve here. Now that relief valve, we're kind of doubling up on relief valves. In fact, I think one was shipped with your boiler, but this is a 30-pound relief. And Well-McLean, the boiler manufacturer, does want the relief valve on the return side as close to the boiler as possible. You really don't have to have it there, but that's where they show it. There's another relief valve, a couple relief valves. One's on your electric boiler right now, and I think there's another one in the corner up by the expansion tank. Too many relief valves. Not that it really matters that much, but so hose bibs on here. This is where we're going to do some draining to purge it. That one fitting that we're going to put on down here is going to be the fill, and it's actually going to fill this system up. And then once this is all connected, we'll be draining some of the water. Some hoses will go back into the bucket, same bucket that you're taking out of for filling the system, the glycol base, 30% glycol that you put in there, and we'll fill it that way. I'll go into a little bit more detail about how it fills maybe in another video, but that's the basis behind it. Again, two lengths or 4 hoses. If this one's not long enough, like I said in the text message, there's a 15-inch, 18-inch, 21-inch, and 24-inch hose. They're not exactly that size. I told the guy that made up the hoses this is what I want. Well, they're not quite right. I mean, one might be 17 inches instead of 18. One might be 20 instead of 21, but they're close. They're just different lengths to give you some options to make a neat job. Try to get it to fit right. So that's probably that there. The flow gauge, you can see there's no display. It does turn on automatically. So as soon as you start getting some flow through it, in fact, you can find the direction and just blow in it with your mouth very lightly, and the gauge will start to come on and have a reading, and then it shuts off to save battery. It is powered by 2 AA batteries, so this rubber edging right here comes off to get at where the batteries is. It's just kind of a rubber thing. seals it, and then you can replace the batteries. The batteries are supposed to last 6 months, hopefully if without any flow to them. They'll last longer, but as long as there's flow, there's going to be a little bit of a display. But there's a pretty big manual on it, so you can read a bit more about it.